Hello and welcome back to the Rory Talks Football channel, your daily Arsenal news, updates, debates and my opinions. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. Trying to get to 6,000 subscribers, so greatly appreciate any support. Drop a like on the video if you enjoy it as well. Now, I wanted to talk about Arsenal, obviously. Are we better this season than last season? It's something that our fans have been talking about a bit. Actually, rival fans talking about it more. Arsenal aren't as good this season. That's what I keep hearing a lot. Not as fluid, not scoring as many goals, getting lucky with penalties and deflections. I've heard it a lot, and I thought I'd look into it, right? Now, I actually got SofaScore to put some stats together for me. I'm partnered with them now. They are my stats provider. You can check them out. Link in my bio to download SofaScore. Really, really good app for getting all of your statistics and data. But I was looking at this that they sent over. So we've got Arsenal's first 8 games last season in the Premier League on the left-hand side and Arsenal's first 8 games this season on the right-hand side. First of all, the SofaScore average rating. So their average rating for Arsenal players has gone up this season compared to last, despite the fact that our total points has dropped by 1. Obviously, last season we were 7 wins, 1 loss at this point. This season we're 6 wins and 2 draws. But we have arguably had a harder run of games at the start of this season, particularly because of Man City. So that's probably why the average rating of our players has gone up. Goal difference, interesting one. This time last season, we were plus 12. This time we're plus 10. However, we've conceded 25% fewer goals this season, and we've scored 20% fewer goals. So actually, our percentage drop in goals conceded is greater than our percentage drop in goals scored. And if you extrapolated that for a 38-game season, our total goal difference was 45 last season. It would become 48 this season. So our overall goal difference will actually improve if we keep going at the rate that we're going at the moment. And of course, that's only a good thing. That's only likely to contribute to more points for the squad. Our XG has actually barely dropped. So what that shows is that last season we were more clinical in the first 8 games, which is interesting, right? Because last season Gabriel Jesus started those games, whereas this season he hasn't, or not until more recently. Shots per game has decreased by more, which means that last season we were having more shots, but they weren't necessarily as high XG shots. Big chances per game has decreased. So people are right in the sense that we're not creating as much anymore. And I don't think any Arsenal fan would disagree with the fact, quite simply, we don't look as free-flowing as we did last season. That is a fair thing the point to make, but does it mean that we're worse? And that's a question that we'll talk about. Opponent big chances is exactly the same as it was. Ball possession has increased, and I think it's fair to say we are dominating games more. Points per game has obviously slightly dropped. Points won against the Big Six. Now, obviously, last season we had played United and Spurs at this point, and we lost to United. So far this season we've played United, Spurs, and Man City, and only dropped those 2 points against Spurs. And this one at the bottom, I think, is really, really important. Martinelli, Saka, Jesus. That is our best front three, in my opinion. I would assume in most people's opinion. This time last season, they had started every game. They'd played 667 minutes together. This season, they've not started a single game together, and they've only played 23 minutes. I'd then take that one step further as well and talk about Partey, Rice, and Ødegaard. Again, in my opinion, that's our best midfield 3. In my opinion, that's the midfield 3 that we're going to look to, especially for big games throughout the rest of the season, if all 3 of them are fit. And they've not started a game yet together either. The only 2 times we've seen them were the Community Shield against Man City, which we won, and the game on Sunday at the end of the game, where, again, we won. So I think that that's our best midfield and our best attack, and we've not seen any of them start a single game yet together in the Premier League. Think back to the first 8 games last season. We knew exactly what the team was. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. I know Zinchenko missed a couple through injury. But realistically, it was basically our best 11 for those 8 games. We didn't have injury issues. And effectively, we weren't really any better then than we are now. Yes, we created more chances. Yes, games were more exciting. Games being more exciting is not necessarily a good thing. And I'll tell you why. And I think, in my opinion, Arteta knows this, right? Arteta knows that the way we played last season wasn't sustainable. For 2 factors. First of all is the way the opposition come up against us. And we saw that in the second half of last season. First half of the season, we were cutting teams wide open. Why? Because they weren't playing a defensive block. Why? Because they were still looking at the Arsenal of the past 2 or 3 years that had finished 8th, 8th and 5th. We were still a team that opposition players thought they could get at. Opposition coaches thought they could get at. You can go and get points against Arsenal, so you don't sit in a deep, low block. This season, we're facing that consistently. So that makes it far more difficult to tear teams apart, to create really open goal chances. And so we're not seeing that as much this season. But that's fine. That's fine. You have to adapt and you have to play in a different way. And that's what we've done. The second thing is that last season we were in the Europa League, this season we're in the Champions League. Last season we could rotate for those midweek games, this season we can't rotate for those midweek games. And those frantic, exciting games that we were seeing, the 4-2 against Leicester, the reason that we can't play that way this season, other than the way that teams are defending, is that it's exhausting. It was more tiring the way that we were playing last season. And if you've got the same group of 11, ideally wanting to play twice a week because of Champions League football, you can't really have that in the same way that we did. You've also got to factor in Granit Xhaka being replaced by Kai Havertz. Now, there are plenty of people that want Granit Xhaka back, that don't think we should have got rid of him. I think that's probably a different video in itself. Personally, I think you can say that we could have had a better, different replacement for Granit Xhaka than Kai Havertz, particularly because I actually think Kai Havertz is better as a 9. You could argue we've not replaced Granit Xhaka. I don't think we have replaced Granit Xhaka. You could argue that we could have used the Kai Havertz money differently to replace Granit Xhaka. One thing I don't think is that we shouldn't have got rid of Granit Xhaka. I don't think that we'd have seen progress. If we held on to him for another year, we'd have delayed that move for a year. We'd have got far less money for him. And I don't think Xhaka wanted to stay. So that's the thing in itself. But the fact is that by changing that, I don't think we fully figured it out. I think part of the reason for that was Thomas Partey's injury. And yet, we're still unbeaten. For all of this, Arsenal are playing worse. Arsenal aren't creating more and better chances. We're unbeaten. We've beaten Man City, which we didn't come close to doing last season. And I think we look more dominant. I think we look more in control of games. And there are stats that back it up. I was looking at FB Ref, right? Yes, our possession has slightly increased. That's a good thing. But where that possession is also better. It's more in the midfield, it's more in the attack, and it's more in the opposition penalty box. We're having far more touches this season than last season in the opposition penalty box. What does that mean? It means more penalties, obviously. The more touches you have in the opposition box, the more tackles they've got to try and put in, the more likely it is that eventually they're going to give away a penalty. Now, last season we should have had more penalties. The fact that I think we only had 2 penalties in the entirety of last season, and you think back to ones like Gabriel Jesus getting rugby tackled at Southampton and not being given, I think we've been not fortunate, but correctly given the penalties that we should have been given this season. Maybe not including Kai Havertz against United. That one was debatable. But the fact is, we're in the opposition midfield, attack, and penalty box more this season. And ultimately, that will lead to more chances, and it will lead to more goals. And also, if we've got the ball there, we're going to concede fewer chances. So overall, in my opinion, yes, Arsenal are not as exciting this season. Yes, Arsenal are not creating as many clear-cut chances, and we're not scoring as many goals. But long-term, I think that is beneficial, and long-term, I think it results in more points, and hopefully, more trophies. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like, drop a comment, let me know, do you want more of this style of video? Please do subscribe. Like I said, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will catch you very, very soon. Goodbye.